Okay, so we're going to do now this handover session. And for the agenda as such, we have these 5 elements. Now, that is what is planned. I'm sure that we will discuss many other things because it's a practical session that says, okay, how can we do it? Which ways? We've experienced this. How can we handle such situation? I'm sure that you also have some situations that you've been through, and if not, I will also share a few on how to handle also the different situations that may occur during a handover session or a handover period. I'll get back to that, why I call it that. So we'll go through what I call the handover email, the handover manual, the folder archive, then also handing over bank and legal stuff, and then a handover session. We'll obviously double click on those, what that means. But first, kicking off, it would be nice to have some real life examples on how it's been done and what I've called the human aspect. And that human aspect will be shared with us by Jonas Christoffersen. As he said, he's a senior member, which in some organizations it's just called alumni. What in practice that means is basically just he's been around for a while and therefore also done handover sometimes. So Jonas, will you just let us know who you are and how you've done handovers? Let's call it from this best practices example, and sure also some worst practices examples. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I've tried both. So I want to start with a little example. During the last 20 years, JCI Denmark has had 2 periods with membership growth. None of those 2 periods have been from the 1st of January to the 1st of January. They have been between handover from one national president to one national president. Specifically in 2 similar situations, where I also think that the key answer to that was a thorough handover, which in that case, going from deputy to national president, of course, is a handover that takes 1.5 years. Normally, we don't have 1.5 years. So here's some of the experiences I have had in unlike situations. My name is, as Jacob said, Jonas Christoffersen. I was the national president in JCI Denmark in 2019. And I have been on the Danish National Board in total 6 years in different positions. So I have tried my share of handovers on a national level. I've also witnessed a lot of them, and I've seen it gone very wrong. I've experienced it gone very wrong, and I've also seen very good and thorough examples. To start on a note on why is it so important, it is of course because we are an organization where everyone has a position for 1 year and then you're on to the next one, which is in many ways terrible and in many ways fantastic. But in a handover situation, that makes the handover situations all the more important because everyone switches responsibility every year. So not only are you responsible for handing over to the one taking your position, but you're also in a situation where you're taking on and standing on the shoulders of someone else who have only had 1 year to do their job. In the best of all situations, the person you are taking over from has done a groundwork of writing down what are the tasks, what was the difficulties we had, what was our success, because then you are already given a roadmap of the year to come, which is also for yourself. As soon as you start your year, start taking notes, start making maps for your documents, all of that can come in handy for the person coming in next to you. I was in a position once where the person coming in next that I was taking over from, I was going to be the general legal counsel, but the general legal counsel dropped out 1 month early and just did like this. And that left me in a situation where the person I was going to get all the experience from wasn't there, wasn't interested in helping the next one, which was me. So instead, I was thinking, what do you do in that situation? So I found the person that I knew, in my perspective, had done the job the best, and then I asked her for a 3-hour session to kind of like, can you fill me in instead? Which is 2 points I want to make out of that is, first of all, even though you're the one taking over, handing over is a responsibility on both sides, which means you have a responsibility to ask for the things you need answers to, but you also have a responsibility to not do like this, of course. But if you're in that situation, you have to think creatively and find someone else who can fill you in the gaps. Secondly, the person that I talked to, we made an agreement that I could keep on the contact, so the handing over wasn't a once in a lifetime opportunity, but it was something that we did thoroughly through the years. So every time I was in some kind of legal situation where a local chapter was beating me up for something, I still had the opportunity to go, how did you handle situations like that? So just to say that that's a situation you can be in, whether it doesn't necessarily have to be that you're the one who is handing over with you is doing like this, but maybe they don't give you the feedback or the info that you need. So be alert, be aware, and get your inputs from somewhere else. Also, this person was in a different kind of personality than me. I think as I speak, this person was really thorough with plans, which helped me a lot. What I could contribute with was then to elaborate and build on that system that I inherited from her. So I could actually relax a lot in that I had a game plan, I had documents, I had everything I need to go forward, and then I could build on with the things that I need. I think that also defines the best handing over that I have witnessed is that it's not an email describing how and why we do things like this. It's not a meeting you have one time where the person talks and you ask. It's a work through time when it's the best handing over, which is also a responsibility on you, because at the same time, be there for the person coming in after you, and don't think of handing over as a thing you do only for a one-time session. But also a responsibility to sometimes ask the person coming in after you, is everything okay? Are you doing okay? Which leads me back to the two handing over periods we have had between teams, where I said we had membership growth. It was also because we shared visions, we didn't reinvent everything we had done the year before, but we built upon it instead. Um, and that is, in my perspective, what a good handing over should be. That you build on those good and bad experiences, that you erase things that didn't work, keep the things that did work, and do not waste time inventing new stuff. And then you're more free in your role to, uh, yeah, kind of like um, elevate the situation and the position you're in, if that makes sense. So I hope that was a short intro, Jacob. Is there anything else you want me to elaborate on?
So what I wanted to get out of this session, and I feel that we did, is that I'm going to go through a lot of elements, very technical. You can do this and you can do this. And what Jonas really elaborates here is that it's something else that are even more important. Not that the rest of the session is not important, but it's linking year to year. It's not a handover, it's linking year to year, and it's standing on the shoulders of something that somebody else has done. And that's the human factor. In all of the things that we're going to go through, we have to remember that there's a human factor to it. Of course, we can all send an email with, here's the address and here's the bank account details, but that is only going from it's not going to work technically to you actually getting access to a bank account. But if you want to do really, really good, it's working together. That's linking the deputy of something, if there is such on local role, whatever it is, to current, to the past of something. And that's why I wanted to have this session with Jonas. So any questions for Jonas?
I can add a little thing, and that is also that if you don't feel you get the right handover, or you don't get sufficient amount of handover or the right inputs, another point for me would also be find the person you know can help you connect to help you connect the dots, so you feel that you are ready for your role, because it's not always the person you're taking over for, but maybe it was the person before.
So a European round of applause for Jonas. Thank you, and thank you for taking the time.
Of course.
I will now share my screen again, and do let me know if we are rolling. You see my screen? Handover, 1 year to lead.
Perfect.
All good. Now, just a short background on myself, so that you know sort of which questions you can ask and which ones maybe I don't know. So I've been part of JCI for a little bit since 2012. I was national president of JCI Denmark in 2018. That also means that Jonas was deputy president when I was national president, and therefore I sort of also knew what Jonas was going to get at, as he's really, really, really good at handovering. And I've been a trainer for some areas around the globe within JCI and outside, because this is the other way of introducing myself, the professional version. I am now a managing director of a recruitment company. And before that, I've only done 2 things professionally in my life. Before that, I was with Deloitte for 12 years, where I was an auditor for 10, and for 2, I was head of training and learning. So basically, that is leadership, recruitment, and then a whole lot of training and learning. Now, for this whole handover stuff, it's really, really big in JCI because of this concept of 1 year to lead. And as you can see, I'm the one looking in the eyes of the past national president handing over. And that is also a little bit, the devil is always in the detail. We always focus on the new one coming in. Well, I will tell you, there's also some feeling elements that we need to consider when you also leave office, whether it's for local president, national president, or it's just head of a committee. Then that is also something we need to consider when it's just, whether you have on local level have been in charge of all the meetings, the monthly meetings throughout the year, and all of a sudden in January next year, you're not. Well, you may be taking too much charge still, or you may feel sad because you've done so much in JCI throughout the past year. There's also that factor to be considered. So that's me lending a hand to that past national president. So what we need to do is we need to link the past, the present, and the future. And meaning here is if you can in some way ensure, a nice word would be succession pipeline. So the past being, a past president, if it's a local president, or if it's just, as the example I mentioned before, on local level, it's the head of or the committee chair of planning the monthly meetings. Well, if you can also have someone past that position still helping out, just by having the chance to call that person is a really, really big thing. And also having the next one in line. Does that mean that you need to have a deputy head of the monthly meeting planning committee? No, not necessarily, but at least thinking through. Now we've been the same group for the last 5 years planning the monthly meetings at our local organization. Well, we need to get started, have someone coming in just planning those meetings with us. They don't need to have any responsibility necessarily, but you're really trying to connect it, because otherwise you will be in the situation that end of the year where you might leave the organization, or you just don't want to plan monthly meetings anymore. Then you really, really need to focus on handover. And that's one of the key elements for let's call it best practice on handover. The handover is hopefully not, when we can make sure it is not, then it's not a formal session. It's something that we do continuously, because then you don't need the handover session at the end. So that's really where we succeed, is when we reach to the end and you say, well, we can meet and we can go through whatever you need to do, but we've done it already. Now that's best practice. So we need to link past, present, and future. Now you can go very practical when you then still do it, when you still want to hand over. And one is what we call the handover email. That's basically where you, in November, now we're doing this beginning of December, and I don't want to stress that you're behind. So let's call it in the beginning of December, you're going to write an email, and then you're going to say, dear 2025 head of committee for something, this is what you need to do. Here's the passwords. Yes, it's as practical as that. We see many times that we're in March and we still don't have the passwords. And the thing with this email is, then you take that email that you got yourself, if you got it, and then you're going to better it. We still have our JCI slogan. It's called Be Better. And it's also on something as practical as this. Here's your passwords. If you lacked information, then what are you going to do? Well, I encourage you, instead of saying, oh, when I'm going to hand over to somebody else, I'm going to do it better. And then what happens at the beginning of December next year, then you forgot about all of these things. So what I practically do is that I take that email that if I got it from someone, I'm going to take that email and I'm going to forward it for myself in January. Say, oh, I forgot this part, or I didn't get this password for whatever. Then I'm just going to add that to the email. Then it's going to basically be a manual that you update just by email. And you're going to send it to yourself. And now we have that password there in itself, because I'm going to promise you that 9 out of 10 of you, including myself, I'm one of the 9, we're going to forget about it when we reach March or February or whatever during the year. Definitely going to forget about it. So put it in there. And then when you reach beginning of December, you send it. It's something as simple as, these are the WhatsApp groups that you need to participate or join. We think that we know it. And you may know it. And you may also think, well, the next in line knows which WhatsApp group it is. We have a WhatsApp group for the projects in JCI X city. Fine. But what happens in JCI? Then in June, that person leaves. And in October, maybe you all also leave. So we just need to have it put down very simply. Even though you think you all know it, just put it in there. It's basic, but in handover, basic is what we need. If you don't have it, then you're really in trouble. Then when on local level, here's the contact information for maybe you have regional vice presidents in your country or so. This is the contact information. If you say, well, I don't have the contact information for the next person in line, well, just put the last one. It just be the 2024 regional president. That's your contact information, because then at least that person would know who the 2025 person is. Remember, our annual Christmas dinner is always on. So you would definitely have something that if you don't put it out there, then November is going to come and the past senators, sorry, Patricia, then they're going to call you and say, hey, we always have this Christmas dinner. It's too bad that you haven't given us a date. So it's just really making the next person in line up for success. That's what we want. We want to love the next person in line. Then also dues. If you don't pay the dues of your local organization, then you very quickly can be in trouble. And then the next person in line would say, well, how do I do it? It's just a handover is a lot of how do I do? Then there's annual report, there's organization stuff, how we're structured. Now, you can also do a real handover session. So oftentimes you meet, and before COVID, you definitely meet. Now you can do it online as well. You don't, you decide on local level. I would suggest to meet, but also, because if you're on local level, you would typically be, well, in the same city, in the same town. So definitely be a good idea. This is a suggestion for an agenda. And you also have to mention, you have to decide, is this a session for all board members? Is this a session for all members in your local organization? Decide that. You decide. It depends on what you can, you know, whether people are active, want to be active or whatever. At least I'd suggest it be an open session, except for the situations where you expect some turbulence. So if you have a past board, as for an example, you want to hand over to the new board, and you know that session is going to be really, really tough. Either these boards hate each other or something. Then, of course, consider to make it a closed session. But other than that, have an open session. I encourage you to do that. Then do a feedback session. Just basically what went well, what didn't go so well, what was really ugly. And that's not the 2024 5 board coming in. It's just the 2024. So just have them talk. And don't try to say, oh, it went much better than you said. Just if it's ugly, just listen. Listen to those stories and really encourage them to share, because that will, at least in my experience, that will improve the chance for you not getting into the same situations. If you listen to somebody where they really hated each other or something, or they've done bad projects or whatever, then that's a really good common understanding for the new incoming boards or local organization members or committee members to not do the same. Then go through the calendar. Just basically, if you haven't done a 2024 yearly calendar where you said, now we did this and now we did that, that's okay. But then you just open the calendar anyways, and you say, what did you do in January? Oh yeah, now I know, we did this. And then just go through it. And then you will write down what you did. Because of course I will encourage you to do all of these things as a yearly calendar. But I also know that, you know, some local organizations, you have 3 members. So I'm not going to say that if you don't have a manual, if you don't have a yearly calendar, then you can't do handover. Then we just do it at a different level. Just go through it anyways. But the yearly calendar is good because then we know, okay, you did this in January, you did this in February, and then you just session by session or meeting by meeting, whatever it is you're handing over, just getting an understanding of what it is. Then scope of roles. If you're at committee level, so you have a committee for community projects in your local organization, then how did you structure yourself? Did you have a committee chair? Did you have a deputy? How did you do it? That doesn't mean you have to do the same, but you just listen. So the first session here of the agenda is really to try to understand. There's 3 steps in a handover. One is trying to understand. The second is now we are trying to rescope a little bit. And then the third, now we're just going to go execute. So the first one is really, really, really trying to understand. And what often happens is, because we only have 1 year to go, then we just start executing. And it's okay, you do your, we sit there as deputy and say, now it was a bad year, I'm going to do it a lot better. I have all of my own ideas. That's fine. But just at least for the handover session, I encourage you to just listen. Then after the meeting, you can do whatever you want to. But for this one, trying to understand. Then it's we're trying to combine, because when we reach to that fourth bullet of State of the Nation, that's trying to understand, doing basically a SWOT analysis. It doesn't have to be as complex as that, but together with the 2024 team, then say, okay, where are we in our JCI X city? What's good? What's bad? Do I have any opportunities? Because, typically when you leave a position, then your energy is gone. You've run for 12 months and now you're done. But that doesn't mean that they don't have any good ideas. Now, what did you almost succeed in? What did you almost got rolling? Because maybe the 2025 team, which hopefully have a lot more energy, then they can execute on it. And maybe the 2024 team even almost got done with something. Now listen to those. Those are your first successes. So if you sit in 2024, local president or committee, if somebody almost started it, I promise you, that's been the key for my primary successes in JCI throughout the year. When somebody else had planned something and I listened, we didn't reach this. Well, I always say, can you do this in January? I'll fix it. The last bit details. But if you already have a great keynote speaker, or if you already have a great venue, whatever, it's to get that momentum running. That's really something where some great successes are kept. So for the last question, before you sort of move on, it's okay. If you would do 2025, what will you do? Just ask the team. They probably have some good stuff for you. And the way that you may want to do it is with this structure. You don't have to, but it's just a way of structuring. What would you want to do more of? What would you want to do less of? What would you start to do that you haven't considered yet? And what would you just entirely stop to do? And that last point is really critical. Like asking the 2024 team, saying, okay, what did you find out was really stupid? Let me give you an example. Like we, in the past local level, we did this every month. Every week we went to have a Friday drink. And that's good. But then I asked, this is when I came in as, I think it was regional vice president. Then okay, how many showed up? Well, at one time we were 5. Well, that's great, but hey, Philip, at one time we were 5, and we were like 120 in the region. I was like, okay, that's great. What I think we should do is something else, but at least I'd listened to them, and then we restructured it. And then we met, I said, you can meet once a week on every Friday, that's fine. But then you plan it yourself. And then I'm gonna plan once a month, something a little bit bigger. And then I could actually do my work. So I tried to listen to them, tried to understand why they do it, and then I retweaked it. It's not that you have to do the same thing as 2024. Not at all. You can do your own thing. That's fine. I encourage you to it. But I didn't just scrap it. I retweaked it. because I tried to understand why they did what they did. So looking into 2025, you really understand which roles do I then need. Instead of saying, what did they do? Then you restructure it and say, what do I actually then need? It's okay to change things. Absolutely. This is not me saying you have to do the same. That is not handover, not at all. Then the last part for the handover session before moving on to the next one, typically it's just an evening. And I'll encourage you to make sure that the 2024 team, after the whole feedback and all of their struggles and such, make sure that they have a good time. Because if you're a 2025 team, you want to have them encouraged still. So make it a celebration of the past year, what went really well also, and then make sure to find some roles for the 2024 team. They might already have that in line, but if not, really try to have them encouraged, because if they don't get roles, then they might leave, and then you don't have what Jonas told us that we needed, then these past whatever's, past president or past committee chair or stuff. So if we get them committed, they're still around so that you can ask throughout the year. And then at all times, I'll encourage you to have a party, because you can celebrate the 2024. It's an obvious way to do it. Any questions on that one, the handover session part, before moving on? No. And then let me have a think, just a sec. Then a question for you, and you can all just say, so I say no if you don't. Anybody have a manual in your local organization? So manual being, this is how we do things. So here are the passwords, and here are our roles, and anybody have that? And no is an answer also. There's some no's, some nope. No. Now, it's important, before I show you an example, that this will not be, okay, if you don't have a manual, then you haven't done handover. Or if you don't have a manual, then you're definitely not best practice local organization. Not at all. That's not the case. I've been lucky enough, and I have not been part of the leadership in JCI Copenhagen for a while, so we can ask we can ask Sarah. It seems that there is not one, but there used to be. So that's also an example of handover, things being scrapped over time. But I will show you an example of what a handover can look like. So this is on national level, JCI Malta, and I did ask them, Flo, who did this, and this, I'm telling you, this is an extreme example. Flo, who's the national president of JCI Malta, I just visited them this weekend. First off, I'd tell you, she said that there was nothing in there that I couldn't share, but I'll just show you this agenda, or this is something she's done in 1 year. I think she's actually been national president for a year and a half, but at least a year and a half. That's quite extreme, that you have this many pages with a story and etc. That's the extreme example, right? So this is not, if you don't do this, then it's absolutely horrible. Not at all. It's just to give you an example of how it can be done. And what Flo has done very, very well is that at the beginning of her year, which ended up to be a year and a half, then she just started writing. Why did she do that? Well, she did because the past national president left, and that that happens. Life happens. It can happen. So it's not to say that was too bad or whatever. It was what it was, but I've seen it so many times. And obviously, then she didn't get a handover like, you know, a perfect handover where the past is there for months. You can just ask. So that is why Flo has made sure that that would not be the case for the incoming. Okay. So she's just throughout the year wrote in this manual that, you know, this is the things to plan. When you start the year, then you need to this. This is what you need to create, like an action plan and stuff. This is what you need to change. So there's a Google Drive, change who can actually have access. There's a Facebook, then you need to change this. And then they have different stuff. They have different fundings. Also, other local organizations have that. So this is how you can get funding for whatever, sponsorships, etc. So it's really bad that if you lose that information, right? Now I see some local organizations, they can get sponsorships from the same persons each year. Now imagine that you get $10,000 every year and that information is not handovered. That's critical, right? Stuff like membership, how do you actually do it? Is there, you know, I've seen local organizations that have a membership, you know, membership archive or portal where you have all the information with address, etc. And then all of a sudden that local president leaves for some reason, and that then they don't have the information that we actually have an archive on with the information on our members. Just basic stuff like that, but it needs to be somewhere. Now this is, you know, I'm not going to show it all of you because it's really state of the art, but it's just to say, now you can do this, and that's why I have called this session manual or one pager, because it's better to have a one pager with the most important stuff than to not have it at all, right? And of course we can all make a one pager. I mean, I'm sure that I'm not going to ask you this question, but I'm sure that if I asked each of you, do you then at least have a one pager for your local organization, or do you at least have a one pager for the committee, or do you at least have the email that I showed you in the beginning? Then most often we don't have that, and that's not good enough. You know, it doesn't have to be the state of the art, but at least the email or the one pager. I'll encourage you there. But there's some ways to it, and typically it's writing throughout the year instead of, you know, it's too tough to say in December. What happens with JCI in November and December? We're tired. We're tired. It's not going to happen then. You know, it's, and when do you have the information around handover? Which information that you need? Well, you have it in January or December when you're getting the information. So that's when you need to do it, not at the end of the year when you're tired. And no, this is not a vice president in December that's tired. Obviously, it's not the case. But yes, of course, I'm tired. Everybody's tired, and then it's not going to happen. I can, and I just to be even transparent for handing over. You know, I have 7 countries assigned this year, and I've made, because I started writing handover in November. I'm done with 3 of the countries, so that the incoming vice president will get, I think, a 6-page handover for that each of those countries. But I'm not going to tell the incoming vice president, oh, sorry, I don't have a handover because I only did 3 of the countries. No, then now I at least have the structure that I didn't receive myself. So I'm just going to give what I have. And then for that next person, I'm sure that then they will do for the rest of the country. So they will update even better. We just need to get it rolling. Now, how many has, I'm just going to show you. This is, I'm sorry, it's in Danish. It's not so important what it states. It's just to say how many have like a drive here, like an archive for your local committee or your local organization with any information. It can be OneDrive or yeah. So that's really, really, really good. I'll encourage you to do, and I will even say right now, and I work very well when I do some online workshops or trainings or whatever, that people just got started working. So if I can get you started working right now while we're doing this session, where you will put in a document, just open it and call it handover or call it important information. And you put it in the front of the archive, because then you put in the passwords, the contact information for yourself. This stuff that I'm telling throughout this workshop, I'd rather call it than a training, because I can get you working and I'd be really, really proud. We just put that in, because even if it's ugly and it only says two things, like the password and the contact information from you, at least we got it started. And if you don't have an archive, then I would encourage you to have it. And in there, remember the really, 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 really basic stuff, like what's the web page of your national organization? Put it in there. Remember that somebody might start tomorrow and everybody's left. That's where you really need handover. Like, do you have a web page for your local organization? Well, put in there. It's basic stuff like that that people, I've been told so many times throughout the year, like war stories. Yeah, then I found out in November that we have a web page. I didn't know because it was called JCI CPH instead of JCI Copenhagen.dk. And then we laugh about it, but it's better just to put it in there. Really, really, really basic stuff that we think we all know. Oh, sorry. Then it's the next point called bank accounts, legal, it could also call etc. Because this is really a tricky part, where sometimes we never get access to bank accounts, or we never get formally changed names of who can actually be the I don't know if it's called beneficiaries or whatever it's called, just head of this local organization of yours legally, who can sign on behalf of JCIX City. That is something you need to get started right away. If you're in Germany, it can be really tough. If you're in Estonia, it's a little bit easier. Now, some of the countries that are present here today. And then this last part that I will say for this part of it, if you can change things to make it easier, then do. Now that means, let me give an example. The address of a local organization, oftentimes it says in your constitution, it has to be the address of the local president. That means that it's only the geeky guys like myself that like stuff like constitution that gets that changed. So I've many times seen that address hasn't been changed for 7 years or something like that. Well, then just accept, instead of say, okay, then I'm going to update it. We'll say, well, maybe we should change our constitution. Maybe it should be, okay, it's at a past member, it's at a Patricia's house, a past senator, because they're gonna stay for a while. And so the address of JCI Denmark is my offices by my company, because I'm not gonna leave for a while, so they don't have to change that always. So if you can make it more smooth, please do. Yes. Any questions for that, or concerns, or whatever? You're all good. All right. Then let's just call it practice. Whether best practice, good practice, or bad practice, I'll let you know. Handover is during the year, not just the sessions. It's really getting somebody else involved, whether a deputy or just somebody. And even if that somebody is not going to come into, committee chair or local president at least somebody knows. Who knows what happens with you? You move to a different city, or something worse can happen. Sorry for putting it out there, but something can happen to you, and that's the situation that we need to be ready for. Then always give some love. So if you remember this section, I love the next person in line, then you also know, okay, what do I want to give that person? And even though you don't love that person, I don't care. Love that person. Because that person is a person. And that person is going to be in your shoes in a while. So even though that you hate each other, which is fine, we're people. People hate each other in JCI. People love each other in JCI. It's fine. Just don't have it to be an effect on handover. So give the information like you love that person. That was a very subjective hope from myself. Then I oftentimes hear, yeah, I don't have an immediate past committee chair for whatever. No, but have anybody else done what you're doing in your local organization before? Yeah, Lotte and Peter and whoever. Okay, well, please get that person to be not your immediate past, but then you can be your past X role. Like imagine you're being national president of a JCI country and you don't have an immediate past president because that person left to another country or whatever. Well, that's fine. Then you just get another one. It's not immediate past, but it's just that role is there for a reason. We want to link the past, present to the future. That also means if you don't have a deputy, you can still have somebody there working like it if it was there. And then ask several people, because I'm sorry to give you this one, but you don't know what you don't know. And that's really a sentence that has helped me a lot in life. You don't know what you don't know. So if that other person also didn't know what that person didn't know, you're not gonna know. So ask, just like Jonas said, he asked 3 past legal counsels because they all had different perspectives. If you're gonna lead a local strategy committee, then don't just ask the past one that did it. Ask people from other local organizations, people that done it before. And then also a little bit of love. Sorry for putting that phrase in there, but what I mean about it, imagine that you're local president of JCI, whatever, and then you've really throughout the year you struggled, you've worked really hard, and now in January of 2025 all of that is gone. The chain is gone, and you can laugh all you want about it. It's just a chain. Well, to some people, it's really something they've been extremely proud about. I really worked hard, and you may not have felt that person did a really good job. That's not part of this. This is feelings. This is emotions. So in January 2025, and especially, New Year's Eve and January 1st, and the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and that first meeting, you need to remember this. On that New Year's Gala event or the first meeting, don't just go. Remember that person as a person. Even you give that person a role, or you say, thank you so much for the year that you've done. I know, just say it out loud. I know it may be even weird for you, in that me wearing this chain. I promise you, it's also weird for me. But it's a lot easier to get the chain, to get it off. The chain is like we all become Frodo, and we want that ring. That's the easy part. but when it's gone, it's not easy. And then stand on the shoulders of greatness. If you want to do really good, remember what they did good on the year before, and then do something that in line with that. Not necessarily the same, but they've got some sponsorships. Maybe you can get more sponsorship from those people, or maybe they almost did a partnership. Maybe you can actually succeed in getting that partnership. You can get this far in 12 months, but imagine that you actually work together so that 24 months would work together, then you can reach this far. Imagine that the ones that work together for several years, then you can reach really, 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 really far. Then some, let's call it examples. My first general assembly with JCI Denmark, because I couldn't say it. I'm not going to tell you where it's from, because the example is from myself. So we were asked to vote out not a person but a role. So previous to that, and that's it was 10 years ago, we had the past president in the board on national level, and oftentimes also on the local level. And then now they asked that please remove the immediate past president from the board of directors of JCI Denmark. And we were like, well, why don't you want that? And then they gave us a lot of sorry, but BS. This is recorded, so I'll only just call it BS, where they said, oh, we need to be very efficient, and sometimes our past president, they move out to international, so they can't be part of the board. They, actually what they were trying to say when we said that can't be the reason, it was because they hated each other. They hated each other from one year to another, and now they've done that for several years. All year, then the past president hated the immediate past president, and then they changed roles the year after, and then they hated each other again, and then moved on for year and year. And we were like, well, okay, well, then we're gonna remove that. But then what we did that then do on local level, where they wanted us to do the same, then we said, okay, but what can we at least do so that you start working together? Then we start to focus a lot more on the deputy presidents, because it's a lot easier to get the relationship going between a deputy and a president than a president and an immediate past president. So we encourage the relationship between deputy and president, because what happens then, when that deputy becomes president, then they love each other more. That's what we encouraged throughout different things that we did. And then the chance of them not hating each other was higher when that person then came in to be past president. That's the one thing that I wanted to mention as an example. The other thing is, cybersecurity, we will call it today. Once, and it's my own example, I was working with this company where I participated in e-learning, and then my computer got hacked, and I had my Dropbox connected to my work laptop, and so they closed down all my files, including all on my Dropbox. So now today, I'm sad to say, Sarah, that JCI Copenhagen does not have this archive. You may have it today again, but at the time it was really, really well structured, and it's my fault because it was hacked and we couldn't get those files back. Well, we could have paid some money, but we decided not to do that. So, please also do remember a small thing that I didn't do, which is called backup. So sorry, Sarah, it's all my bad.
It usually is.
Yes, it usually is. I'm sorry, Sarah. And then the last part, and that's really not sorry, that should have been with the best practice example, but that's just have the one next in line with you. Just whatever you do, just have that one with you, because then it becomes a lot easier. So my checklist for you this evening is, let's call it highlighted. Write that handover email, and you can do it now. I'm gonna leave you with a little bit of time, so I'd encourage you to write that handover email. Consider that manual, and manual does not have to be state of the art. Start with the one pager. At least I think I can expect that from each other. Get the folder archive started. So it doesn't have to be with everything. Just get it started, because what happens next year, I will promise you this sentence. In January, all around JCR Europe, all around JCR the globe, they're going to sit and say, and I did exactly the same also. I've done almost all the positions I've had, and then it says, I can do that better. And that's good. We want that. We don't want them to tell us, but we want them to tell themselves that. Because when they then open that folder archive and say, Jacob, this is not structured at all. And then they're going to structure it. So we just need to get it rolling. But if there's nothing in the archive, there's nothing for them to structure. And then they're going to sit there and hate me and say, oh, why is there no passwords? And you know what? Then they're going to do a document that says passwords, and they put that in there. And we just need to get it rolling. So hopefully when we do this session again next year, and I'm going to ask, so does anybody have a manual, or does anybody have a one page, or does anybody have an archive? Then more people are just going to put their hands up. And then get this bank account handover rolling right now, because it really takes some time. Typically, what's needed for the bank account to be transferred is a general assembly document signed. And you know, with most organizations, also local organizations, you have that already. You do that maybe in October or November, or at least in December, because you have to vote in the new local board members, right? So you don't have to wait for January to get that rolling. And then book the handover session. This is not for 2024 handover session. No, I'm talking about the 2025 to 2026 handover session. Just get it in the calendar right now. Again, I'm gonna leave you with a little bit of time. So you just do it this evening. Whether it's the committee that you're working on, whether it's the local board that you're working on, whatever it is that you need to get handover, that you're in charge of for 2025, just put it in there. Because when then we reach October or November or December that you want to do this session, you may not be able to do it on that date, but then it's in there, and then you're going to do it. Book also yourself in your calendar right now where it says handover email, and book that in November of 2025. It says send handover email for a monthly meeting committee that I'm in charge of. Because the chances of then you doing it is a lot greater. So that's what I had for you. There was 2 chunks for this session. One was with Jonas, the human factor, because that's the critical one. And then I gave you some, let's call it practical examples of how you can actually do it, the technical handover ways of working. So, questions, concerns, why didn't you have this one on this session? Let us just go throughout, and you can just say no, that's fine. Sarah, anything that you wanted to have covered, or questions?
Yes. I do have a question, because what both you and Jonas also touched based with today was the structural and the correct way that it should be done. And you did just talked about it a little bit this time, Jacob, but what do you do when you have, for example, this is a thought example, but if you have your local president that has gone through travel for the rest of the year, your treasurer as well has been slammed with work and also MIA, and your IPP is going, your local IPP is going to move to another local chapter. So this is basically the examples happening at the moment. And also we have 6 people leaving the local organization, making us really low on our junior count. So what we talked about today was we do have the structure. I think the LPs do have a handover email, but we cannot get in touch with either our LP and our treasurer, which basically makes it a lot harder from the incoming board to actually plan because everyone is basically leaving.
Yeah. So one thing is that you need to make sure you have the signatures in order. So you even though, you know, any organization can have all members leave tomorrow, and then you can still run. Or not all members, but then at least, you know, 3 members left, whatever. Because you just run a general assembly, and then everything will be thoroughly read out in the local constitution. So whatever happens, we're still fine. You call the legal counsel of your national organization, and then that person will take care of you. And the first thing that they will say is get the signatures in order. So you will put in a new board, and when you've done that, you can go to the bank and say, now we need to get access to our bank account. They need to give access to your bank account because now you're the formal signatures voted in, and then we're fine. So there's some formal things that we need to ensure. Also, you know, having people and we having access to a bank account that they should not. You know, one thing is that we don't want to have that happen because they can steal our money, but it's also more in the line of, you know, their security. They should not, you know, what if some money is left from that bank account? It's unfair to them that they are now, you know, we're all looking at them, hey, what happened? You know, it's not necessarily their fault. So we need to get that away. The second part is, remember, you don't necessarily need to have an immediate past president. You don't necessarily have whatever past. So go back and say, who do we have of senators, of whatever? Even there, if you don't have any of those, then go to other local organizations. If you don't have those, then alumni of other local organizations. And even if you can't get any of that, then we're just going to start over. That's also okay. And in the start over, I need you to remember one very, very key thing, and that's the project triangle. So that means that you have tasks, you have time, you have resources. Now, in the situation that you're mentioning, have your resources changed a little bit? Yes. Has your time, the amount of time that you have changed? Yes. Patricia has a question, a hand up.
No, just an idea to ask for a mentor.
Yes, it's a very good point. It's a very good point because, you know, it doesn't have to be of the ones that, you know, have been in the organization. At least that you have somebody that you can call, whether it's your mom and dad or somebody from a different organization, just somebody, you know, because you get so deep into this because you're trying to save an organization, basically. So to have somebody say, now I've done this, and then hopefully you don't overwork yourself, you know, don't think that we can do the same. We're going to do a TYP, CYE, we're going to do this project, because always done it. Yes, but you were 55 members and now you're 3.5. You know, you need to get access to the bank account. But you need to get a structure on what did happen, because then you can call people and then you can say, okay, I know Soren, you've been so you know, nice of JCIX City in the past, of being a partner of our TUYP session. We might do it again in November, but we might also not do it. we are in a situation right now, just being transparent. We say we have a change of leadership, and therefore you might not hear from us in the next couple of months. But the way that I've been trained is that I always call people, tell them there's the situation, and then they at least know, because then I will, well, not promised you, but at least from my experience, then people would be glad to help later on, but they will hate you if you haven't told them. And then just trying to get what I know. You don't know what you don't know, again, but at least you can find out what you do know. And then it's not to lower the ambition level, it's just to change the ambition level. You might go from 5 awesome things to just 1 awesome thing, and that's fine. I think that was what I wanted to say. Was there anything missing in there, Sarah?
No, it was perfect. Thank you both very much.
Okay. Perl, any questions concerning anything you wanted to have covered? Yes or no?
Oh, for me, it's really perfect, and I'm currently telling my local chapter about it. And we are reflecting on a manual, a little manual.
Love it. Love you, Perl. This is perfect. Now, Patricia, I think, I don't know, do you have anything or other comments?
Not really. I told my local president of this year, next year, about this session, but they have some problems with the English. That's why I said I will attend if you can't, and then I will tell you. But just for the small history, I began in my Swiss chapter only 41 years ago. And as far as I know, we never had a manual concerning the chapter. But what I made many years ago was something very different, was to attend international events, and the name was the Manual of Your First Time. Which first time, we don't know. But that was useful. So for sure, I think it's very useful to have a manual for the chapter. Yeah.
All right. And Elisa?
Not really a question, more so it's a little bit more clarifying in my head as well. Because I'm not local president now, I'm deputy, but it's actually the case that my immediate past president next year will not be very present because he wasn't this year. So it had something to do with his business, and which is fine, we're rooting for him, but there's not really that much that I can take on. And if I hadn't had this session clarifying it as well, I would have had it myself in a kind of different way, because on our General Assembly, I also said I want to work next year on actually the overcoming this 1 year to lead and 1 year to forget aspect of it. It's like we do so much, and there's so much more to this, and but there's only so little that we can exchange in a conversation. So we actually now I'm happy that we have Teams as a space for us, so we can work on there, we can exchange everything, we can use it as an archive. So now, like how to structure it, and that's actually something that I have like as a big goal for next year. So that's going to be interesting. So it's more like supporting the idea in my mind. So not really a question, but thank you for putting it all together.
All good. All good. And Mikkel?
Thanks for asking. I'll be my local deputy president next year. So yeah, I think I got some ideas what to implement next year, or what to like put my eye on. So I don't have any questions per se, but I just got some good thoughts to think about during my next year. So thank you for the ideas.
And any further, just make sure you have a past president. It doesn't have to be immediate. I'm pretty sure that you got that one. So and Philip left. Then we just off to you, Sandra.
Yeah, nothing to add. Thank you very much.
Oh, good.
I'm not more in a position to be a local president, but I think it would be very helpful even to spread this video, and it will help others. And yeah.
Cool. Spread the video and get it into the culture. This is a way of working. So hand over during the year and get it down in something. Email, one-page manual, whatever, but just get it down there and do it throughout the year. Then some of us are here today, and some of us are Flo from Malta, and we just need to, here is just fine. That's just fine. Thank you for participating. This was lovely. Have a great JCI Christmas and a lot of fun out there.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.